meeting of the Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders is hereby called to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call roll?
Freeholder Bobadilla. Present. Freeholder Vice President Gill.
Here.
Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Jones.
Present.
Freeholder Luciano, absent. Freeholder Richardson.
Here.
Freeholder Siebel, absent. Freeholder Toro.
Present.
Freeholder President Timberlake.
Here. Please stand to salute our flag. Can I ask Freeholder Toro to please lead us in the salute? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. I have before me a certification from the clerk that this meeting is indeed in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Madam Clerk, are there any transcripts to be approved?
Madam President, there are none.
Are there any topics of discussion?
Madam President, there are none.
Okay, moving to public comment session. If there's any member of the public wishing to comment on any agenda items only, please come forward, state your name and affiliation. Hearing none, is there any member of the public wishing to comment on any issue at all? Please come forward, state your name and affiliation for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak, monitored by the clock to my right.
Good evening, Madam President, freeholders. My name is R.A. Cowboy. I'm District Leader, 48 District Leader, South Ward, and also overlooking all the things that's around the park and up at Turtleback Zoo. Spend the weekend up there, and I was very excited about getting back up there. The crowd up there was tremendous, and I can see the zoo is growing like the 8th wonder of the world. But everything is going along fine except for the things that I had spoke on, and I know it's going to be another problem, and I was shown that up there where a young lady fell over her son trying to move to the side on the sidewalk. And there ain't nothing but ditches on each side of the sidewalk. They're only 4 foot wide, and the crossing lane is 8 foot. Now I said, all I had to do is put 2 foot on each side, which is very simple. The ditches is already there, so they wouldn't have to do too much work. But the thing about it, I've seen porta potties up there. They put more porta potties, which is good. The people are going there, and the people are really excited about the lions and things coming back in this year. So I know it's going to be a great thing. Another thing, down at Weekway Park, I see is that the place is crowded up right now, and it isn't even summer yet. But I was just wondering if there's something that can be done to where water could be put around there somehow, where people can get something to drink other than just buying water. The kids are in them swings, and they come in and knocking on the door when the place closes at 6 o'clock, because they stay open at 7 or 8, and they can't go to the bathroom anywhere, and there's no water. There's one water faucet there by the swings and stuff, and that was closed, and I mean the water's off. It hasn't been turned on yet. But there's some things that I feel that people that is in charge aren't doing their job, seeing these things that is going on, and I would like for something to happen, because the people, somebody is going to get hurt, because it's from the elderly down to young is coming up to that zoo, and you got to prepare for that type of situation. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Cowboy. Are there any other members of the public wishing to comment on any issue at all? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, we're going to close public comment session. Mr. Cowboy, thank you for bringing those things to our attention. We will respond to you within 7 days in writing. Madam Clerk, are there any ordinances or resolution on introduction and first reading?
Madam President, there are none.
Are there any ordinances and resolution on second reading and public hearing listing only?
Madam President, there are none.
Okay, how about ordinances and resolution on second reading and public hearing?
Madam President, there are 2. The first one is resolution number R 2017-003 70-2017 budget amendment. And Madam President, would you request that Mr. Acker read the amendment into the record?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam President, Mark Acker, Director, Department of Administration and Finance. As we discussed on March 29th, when we had the public hearing on the originally introduced budget, it was necessary for us to amend that budget from an original $721,540,000 to $697,750,000. And we discussed in depth the reason for that amendment. Tonight we're having a public hearing on that amendment, and it is necessary to read the amendment, which I will now do. Under local revenues, Section A, Delaney Hall Drug Treatment Program is going from $20 million to $0. The state assumption for the prosecutor's office is going from $1,800,000 to $0. Federal inmate housing is going from $36,810,000 to $39,350,000. Consequently, the total Section A local revenues is going from $175,494,561 to $156,234,561, a decrease of $19,260,000. Under miscellaneous revenues, Section B, State of New Jersey reimbursement for confinement of state prisoners is going from $7 million to $4,470,000. Local law enforcement assistance component is going from $2 million to $0. Consequently, the total Section B state aid is going from $19,453,000 to $14,923,000, a decrease of $4,530,000. Consequently, we have total miscellaneous revenues of $274,122,000, which is now going to be $250,332,000, a decrease of $23,790,000. On the appropriation side, under general appropriations, operations insurance, our group insurance plan for employees is going from $69,050,000 to $64,960,000, a decrease of $4,090,000. Under operations public safety functions, our Department of Public Safety, Division of Correctional Services, other expenses is going from $38,925,311 to $24,325,311, a decrease of $14,600,000. County Sheriff other expenses, it's going from $2,589,865 to $1,589,865, a decrease of $1 million. Total operations public safety functions consequently is going from $202,863,256 to $187,263,256, a decrease of $15,600,000 in total. Under other operations, other common operative functions unclassified, our terminal leave, other expenses is going from $300,000 to $0, consequently a decrease of $300,000. The total operative other commons operative functions unclassified is going from $2,904,548 to $2,604,548. Again, that $300,000 reduction. Under capital improvements, we have the whole line item is being reduced. Capital improvements for the equipment, $650,000 to $0. Parks and Recreation vehicles, $1,330,000 to $0. Public Works equipment, $350,000 to $0. Public Works vehicles, $300,000 to $0. Public Safety vehicles, $120,000 to $0. Citizen Service equipment, $50,000 to $0. Citizen Services vehicles, $80,000 to $0. H&R, Health and Rehabilitation equipment, $250,000 to $0. Again, health and rehabilitation vehicles, $170,000 to $0. Consequently, the total operations for capital improvements is going from $5 million to $1,700,000, a decrease of $3,300,000. Under our statutory expenditures, our employees' retirement system, the contributions going from $2,500,000 to $2 million, a decrease of $500,000. Total statutory expenditures consequently is going from $53,996,310 to $53,496,310. Again, a decrease of $500,000. Consequently, the total general appropriations is going from $721,540,000 to $697,750,000, a decrease of $23,790,000.
Thank you, Mr. Acker. I hereby declare the public hearing on resolution number R 2017-00307, 2017 budget amendment open. If there's any members of the public wishing to comment for or against this ordinance, please come forward and state your name and affiliation. Okay, hearing none. Freeholders? Mr. McInerney?
Just to point out that although these numbers seem relatively large, there is no change in the tax levy. All of this is, if you will, self-contained, that any reduction in revenue was matched by a reduction in the appropriation. Really, the largest reduction in revenue was the $20 million on the that we received from the state for the Delaney Hall, which was accompanied by a $14.6 million reduction in that contract. So effectively, there's only a $5.4 million spread between those two numbers. In fact, one offsets the other, with the exception of $5.4 million. There's a $3.3 million reduction in the capital appropriations, which were anticipated to be expended through the operating budget. However, we can review this in the future to see if these expenditures will be reappropriated in the capital budget. Again, as I said, there is no impact on the tax levy or any impact on additional anticipations of fund balance. As I said, it's all self-contained between the revenues and the appropriations.
Freeholders? Mr. Paul Vecchio?
No comments.
Freeholder Vice President Gill?
Thank you, Madam President. Just want to understand, Brent, the appropriation can be reapplied? The last part of what you said in terms of if there was a, we can reapply an appropriation at a further time?
What I was saying was regard to the capital expenditures. Typically, the amounts that were indicated were reducing the capital expenditures from $5 million to 1.7.
Right.
Means that we're no longer taking care of what traditionally might have been a capital expenditure through the general capital account where where you would finance it.
Right.
Given the fact that we had a significant cash fund balance this year, the administration, along with the board, agreed that some of those types of acquisitions would go through the operating budget, rather than have to finance it and pay interest on it.
Right.
What I'm saying is that the $3.3 million that is no longer coming out of the operating budget still has an option to be put into the capital budget. I don't believe it's in this year's capital budget, but it would have an opportunity to be reappropriated in the capital budget for a capital ordinance, and where we would have to go out and finance. So it's, again, it's just not as quick. It'll have to go through that process that typically goes through for any other capital asset.
Okay.
Freeholders? Okay. Is there a mover and a second to close the public hearing?
I'll move it.
Moved by Freeholder Siebold. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Freeholder Toro. Do I have the same movers and seconds
Yes.
to vote on the ordinance?
Yes.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Freeholder Bobadilla?
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Gill?
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson?
Yes.
Freeholder Jones?
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano? Absent Freeholder Richardson?
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel?
Yes.
Freeholder Toro?
Yes.
Freeholder President Timberlake?
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Okay.
Uh,
Madam Clerk?
Ordinance number 2, adoption of 2017 Essex County budget.
Okay. Mr. Jackson?
Excuse me, good evening, Madam President. Again, Mr. Acker is here to answer any questions or concerns the board may have.
Okay. We just had the public hearing on Resolution R 2017-00307. This here is the adoption of the 2017 Essex County budget. I'd like to open up a public hearing on that. If there's any members of the public wishing to comment for or against it. Hearing none? Okay. Thank you. Mr. Acker?
You're in a position now to adopt the amended budget. If the clerk would read the resolution indicating the amount of the tax levy, and then you vote on that, we would adopt the amended budget.
Right.
I will read it, Madam President.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Resolution, be it resolved by the Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Essex that the budget herein before set forth is hereby adopted and shall constitute an appropriation for the purposes of stated of the sums therein set forth as appropriations and authorization of the amount of $427,418,000 for the county to be raised by taxation and certification to the Board of Taxation of the following summary of general revenues and appropriations. General revenues, $20 million. Miscellaneous revenues anticipated, $250 million, $332,000. Receipts from delinquent taxes, 0. Amount to be raised by taxation for county purposes, $427,418,000. Total general revenues, $697,750,000. Summary of appropriations. Operations including contingent, $529,178,461. Capital improvements, $1,700,000. County debt service, $112,347,923. Deferred charges and statutory expenses, county, $54,423,616. Judgments, $100,000. Cash deficit, 0. Total general appropriations, $697,750,000. It is hereby certified that within the budget is a true copy of the budget finally adopted by the resolution of the Board of Chosen Freeholders on the 19th day of April, 2017. It is further certified that each item of revenue and appropriation is set forth in the same amount by the same title as appeared in the 2017 approved budget and all amendments thereto, if any, which have previously been approved by the Director of Local Government Services.
Okay. Thank you. Freeholders? Is there a mover and a second to close public hearing? Moved by Freeholder Siebel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Freeholder Richardson. Do I have the same mover and second to vote on this
Yes.
Yes.
ordinance? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Toro.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano. Absent. Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Gill.
Yes.
Freeholder Bobadilla.
Yes.
Freeholder President Timberlake.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Please move to resolutions 1 and read.
Resolutions 1, Office of County Council authorization to commence efforts to acquire for the public welfare voluntary conveyance or condemnation pursuant to the Eminent Domain Act, NJSA 20:3-1, ETCEQ, fee simple titles to the properties designated as Block 1868, Lot 30 and 31.
Mr. Jackson?
Madam President, County Council Gassion is here to explain and answer your questions.
Ms. Gassion?
Good evening, Courtney Gassion, Essex County Council. As indicated by the resolution that's been read into the record by the clerk, this is the county administration's request for authorization by the Freeholder Board to begin the process of condemnation of two properties located in Newark, New Jersey, in the surrounding site of the new Congressman Donald M. Payne Senior Vocational Technical School. Specifically, the two properties are located at 79 and 81 South 11th Street. These two properties are two of the last remaining properties that are located in this particular section of South 11th Street, right adjacent to the new campus site. As this board knows, the county has been pursuing the purchasing of properties throughout this neighborhood in an attempt to rehabilitate not only just the site where the vocational school is going, but the surrounding areas as well. As I've certified to this board before, the county is attempting to resurrect this particular area by including these properties as part of the whole campus feel for the area. The properties that have been purchased to date are being used for green space, for parking, and ultimately there is going to be hopefully some athletic sites available up there as well. You'll also recall that several weeks back I came to you with regard to the Myrtle Avenue site surrounding the Votech school, and that's currently the site of the new Sheriff's Command Center. So this is all part of the rehabilitation of this particular neighborhood surrounding the Votech school. With regard to these two specific properties, the reason the county is seeking, rather than go through the normal purchase procedure of properties that we've done thus far and go through the condemnation process, is we have been unsuccessful in trying to reach the property owners of these two particular homes. They are, from the best that we can tell, single-family homes that are not owner-occupied. The 79 South 11th Street property is owned by a limited liability corporation out of Union, New Jersey. The 81 South 11th Street property is located also by an LLC out of Flushing, New York. Despite several attempts, both via telephone, certified and regular mail letters over the course of 2016, we were unable to get any response from these property owners. As of the current state of these two particular properties, 79 South 11th looks to be occupied by tenants, again, not owner-occupied, and 81 does appear to be an abandoned property. I've just recently viewed photos of this property. There are windows out, there's no front door, there's no signs that anybody is currently living in this property. Yet, despite the county's attempts to, again, reach the property owners, we have been unsuccessful. I've asked the administration to share with you prior to tonight's meeting a general outline of what the condemnation process looks like. It is a lengthy process. It's important to note that a very large part of the condemnation process includes a good faith negotiations with the property owner. So before we are able to in any way take this property by taking, we are required by statute to engage in a negotiation process with the property owners. And that happens over the course of between 30 and 60 days. So it is a lengthy process by which we attempt to, in lieu of taking by condemnation, we attempt to take it through the normal purchase procedure by entering into good faith negotiations. It is only in the event that those negotiations fail that we go forward and file with the court seeking to take by condemnation. Included in the information that the administration has provided to you is, again, a timetable, and that sets forth essentially what will happen over the course of the next 6 to 9 months in the county's attempt to obtain these properties. I've also included in materials that the administration has provided to you in advance of tonight's meetings some information with regard to the relocation consultant that will be retained. The county's in the process of retaining for the purposes of assisting in the event there are any residents or tenants in those two properties with finding alternative housing. This is what this company does. I gave you a profile of the company that we are looking to retain. And essentially, it also outlines what the process, the steps that they take for relocation are. That's a lengthy process as well. They assist not only financially with seeking sources of rental assistance or mortgage assistance for the tenants, as well as seeking 3 alternative sites for them to move to. It works with them as far as timing, it works with them for moving expenses, as well as helping them with the move itself. So those are all factors that are brought into this entire process that the county is looking to work with, again, if there are any existing tenants in those buildings, to help them with their relocation efforts. I'm happy to take any questions.
Mr. Paul Vecchio?
Ms. Gassion, just one thing I wanted to add, or actually ask you to confirm. As part of the lengthy condemnation process, if the bona fide negotiations don't work, then a value is set by the court for the property so that the county, if successful in the condemnation proceedings, doesn't get this property for free. In fact, the county or any pursuing agency would have to deposit funds for the ultimate, to pay for that property in with the court, and the owner, if found, would be paid for giving up that property.
That's correct. Thank you for pointing that out. In the timeline that I've provided to the board, it does set forth as part of the timeline the getting of appraisals. We've already started that process. In the event that the bona fide negotiations, as Mr. Parlavecchio has pointed out, are not successful, we are obligated as a governmental entity to provide the appraised value in a deposit form with the courts, and that is the amount that will be provided to the property owners should condemnation go forward. And again, the hope is that those negotiations will be successful and we don't get to that stage.
Okay. Mr. McInerney?
No questions, Madam President.
Freeholders? Freeholder Seabold?
Thank you. I know I ask the same question each time. After these properties, how many are left?
Recognizing Freeholder Leonard Luciano, now present with us. Ms. Gassion?
Freeholder Seabold, there are no further properties that we are seeking to purchase.
These are the last.
These are the last for purchase purposes, and or in this case, condemnation. There are 2 properties that are currently owned by the city of Newark that are on their foreclosed property list that we've just been notified recently they are willing to give us without a charge involved. So
There'll be no charge.
That's
They'll
correct.
give it to us.
If you recall, at the beginning of this whole process, we had inherited a bunch of properties from the
Right.
city of Newark for the cost of $1.
Right.
There was 2 additional properties hanging on there that we were waiting for appraisals to come back on. They're now available, and we'll be able to obtain those from the city. That's probably going to be in the next several months. But again, it would be for
But these
that
are
de
the
minimis
last
cost.
2 that we're concerned with.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Freeholder Richardson?
Yeah, Ms. Gassion, through you, Madam President, how do you enter into a bona fide negotiation with an entity that you haven't been able to contact in 2016? I mean, how does that happen?
So part of the reason why we retain the services of that relocation expert is they have the capabilities of actually taking this to the next level and really going out and trying to locate the property owners. They will actually knock on the doors of these properties. They'll talk to the tenants if there's any tenants there. They'll find out who the property owners are, and then they'll take the addresses that we have on record for the actual property owners. They'll physically drive there, and they will start entering into discussions with them, which will, in our hope, result in being able to negotiate with them.
Thank you.
Freeholder Johnson?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did I hear you say that these doors needed to be boarded up, that these houses are empty?
One of them on 81 appears to be abandoned. There's no windows from the pictures I've seen, and there's a missing front door. There's garbage piled in the garage. It does not appear that there's anybody living there at this time. 79 does appear to be occupied.
But the city of Newark should have some records of who was even the previous owner.
And that's the information we have and that we've been utilizing, but they have been unresponsive to date. We've gone off of tax records from the city.
Freeholder Bobadilla? I'm sorry, Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
were you finished?
And
Freeholder
81,
Johnson.
does 81 have residents living in it?
I do not believe so.
So both properties are empty?
No. 79 appears to be occupied, 81 appears to be abandoned.
Okay. And your negotiations with 79,
We would negotiate with both property owners once they are located and we're able to physically be in contact with them.
But if you already have 79, why not negotiate with them before you get to 81?
We've not been able to get a response from either of the property owners.
Okay. I gotta look into this tomorrow.
Freeholder Bobadilla?
Do you know how many residents are in 79?
I do not. That's something the relocation expert will assist us with, because as I mentioned earlier, they will physically go out to the property, they'll knock on the door, and they'll actually assist in us in obtaining the number of residents that are in the actual property.
And based on the tax records, what's the amount of family? Is it a one family, two family, three family?
They're both one-family homes.
All right. Thank you.
Freeholders? Okay, Ms. Gassion, do we currently already have the company that is trying to see if anyone lives there?
The relocation consultant? Yes, we've already identified who they are. I provided to you through the administration in the packet of information the name of that company. They were unfortunately unavailable to come this evening, but their information is in the part of the packets that I've provided to you.
Freeholder Bobadilla?
So we have not retained the relocation company at this time?
Unfortunately, we're not able to retain them until I have approval from the Freeholder Board to actually start the condemnation process. So once we get the approval, then we can go forward and actually retain them. I've already had conversations with them. They're familiar with the properties. They know what we're looking to accomplish, but their actual services can't be contracted for until I have authorization from this board to go forward with the condemnation.
Freeholder Toro? Freeholder Bobadilla?
I'm just a little bit confused as to the services that we're looking for these experts, but we have to engage in a condemnation process. I'm unfamiliar with the whole process, so I mean, if you can highlight someplace that, you know, I could reference to as far as where that clause is highlighted, that in order for condemnation to take place, you know, we must have, that needs to be approved first before you can hire a professional.
Well, you can't, a governmental entity cannot move forward with a condemnation without approval from its governing body. So in this case, it would be the Freeholder Board. And I would not have a basis for retaining a relocation expert unless there's an appropriate condemnation action actually going forward.
I get that, you know, but I think my whole reasoning is that, you know, I think we should look, you know, you mentioned best effort, right? Communication, best effort to get in contact with these property owners, but yet we have to engage in an act which is, you know, displacing people, potentially displacing people, and we're doing one before the other. I mean, that's my opinion. That's how I'm looking at it.
I understand your perspective. What we are attempting, though, is to relocate them and then enter into, as Mr. Parlavecchio pointed out, those bona fide negotiations, which will avoid the displacement that we're hoping is not going to ultimately take place. So once we can actually physically get a hold of these people, enter into those negotiations, and get them to, you know, hopefully agree to a fair market value, the appraised value for the homes, then the condemnation process becomes unnecessary at the end of the day. But I can't retain a relocation expert. I wouldn't have authority to do that unless I'm actually moving forward with condemnation. They would not have a purpose in just trying to go to obtain the identities of the homeowners unless there was a reason why we needed to retain their services.
Would there be an option to this legislative body to approve the retention of the professional services prior to acknowledging some sort of condemnation process?
I'd have to look into that. I don't know. And I'd have to prepare a resolution if we were authorized to do that in order to put it before the board.
I think that's something that needs to be explored.
Freeholder Toro?
Yeah, I don't have the timeline that you speak of, that you shared, but my question is, how much time at minimum is allocated for the purposes of relocating the residents at 79?
At least 3 months.
Or at least 3 months?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Freeholder, was that Johnson's hand that I was seeing?
She kind of answered some of the question, but what I'm not grabbing here is that we're supposed to approve getting the people to go in and do the search. Don't we have the Department of Mortgage and Deeds and Registration? Don't they have accurate account for property owners and stuff in this whole county?
As far as property records go,
Yes.
yes, I don't work for that office, but I assume that their property records are accurate, but that doesn't mean that just because we send them a letter, they're going to respond. To the best of our record-keeping efforts and what we've obtained from the City of Newark through the county, we have the most up-to-date and accurate records. They've been unresponsive.
Because it's rather hard to vote on that at this point because of the fact that I've seen in the past where things have been voted on and done, then the people come back and sue.
Well, and in this case,
because, you know, they weren't notified about it. And you might not have had an address to notify them, but maybe I'll do a little work myself and try to find out from even some of the neighbors who was the last owner and where they went, if they went somewhere. Because I don't like to take people's property without at least having some negotiations and things of that nature. Them getting, at least some people have worked their whole lives and raised all their kids in those homes, and you know they just couldn't bear it no more. And then now we're talking about taking it without at least giving them something for all the years of hard work they put in to get these homes.
understood, but I want to just point out that both of these properties are owned by LLCs. They are not owner-occupied, and one does not even appear to be occupied at all. So the property owners are not living within the properties currently.
Freeholder Bobadilla.
Yeah, through you, Madam President, you know, I tell you, I'm not comfortable voting on this resolution as it stands. I mean, I'd like to see a version of this resolution where we seek the services of the professional entity first, rather than a resolution for the conveyance or condemnation pursuant to a property that we are trying to acquire. I get the whole thing about LLC and absentee landlords. I get that. And I understand the value that we're creating for the community, for families and households with the addition of the school and the new sheriff's headquarters. But I just think we're jumping the gun a little bit, and I'd like to see the resolution for the you know, for the services, for professional services rather than condemnation. And would you happen to know exactly what the fee of those services would be if you should engage in that contract?
I can tell you it's probably somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000.
Thank you.
Freeholders. Mr. McInerney.
Just one question. Has the communication been strictly by mail at this point in time?
There was 4 letters sent to each of the LLCs at the most current addresses we have. There's also telephonic communications with the owner of 79 South 11th. We asked them, we were able to get in touch with an attorney. We asked them to get in touch with their client. The client never returned their calls. That was the LLC. And for 81, there was no return phone calls, even though repeated phone calls were made as well to the phone number that we had a record of.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And the letters were sent both certified and return receipt requested.
Is there, but what, in a search of the LLC, were you able to determine who the members of the LLC were?
We reached out for them as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Freeholders. Freeholder Vice President Gale.
Thank you, Madam President. So neither are owner occupied, to the best of your knowledge.
Correct.
One is owned by an LLC.
They are both owned by an LLC.
Two
different property owners, yes.
LLC. And we're concluding that one isn't occupied at all.
Based on the condition of the home, yes.
Okay. And outside of the other means, would we send someone there? Meaning outside of telephone, mail?
Have I sent somebody there?
No, I guess what I'm saying is, I'm agreeing with my colleagues, and it's a process that's new to me, and as a board member, so I guess the question is, did we as a county physically send someone to the property? Has someone from the county been to the property?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Okay.
It was not me, but yes, somebody from the county has gone to those properties. They've spoken to the neighbors, and they've attempted to talk to owners or occupied tenants in those properties without success.
Because the tenants aren't really the issue here, it's the owners. I mean,
as far as
the
for us to be
the issue, but I'm saying from a county perspective, it's whether they're occupied or not occupied. This process is about who owns the property.
At this point, yes. Ultimately, the tenants will be an issue because obviously for relocation purposes, they do become the issue. But for the purposes of entering into negotiations, purchasing the properties, it is the owner we are concerned with at this juncture.
So just, if we were to vote yes on this, this allows you to contract with a service which helps with the relocation.
As well as communication with the property owners, yes.
And what happens if we still at that point in time can't contact the property owner? What happens if they don't respond at all, ever?
I don't know the answer to that question. I have not engaged myself in many condemnation actions. I don't know that you can go forward with a condemnation action without going through the bona fide negotiations, and I don't know how you do that without having somebody on the other side. So I don't know the answer to that.
To Freeholder Toro's question, what triggers then the process with the residents? Is it actually when you actually get some type of communication with the owner and that process starts? Is it, I guess the kind of elementary question I'm asking is, if somebody's in there now, when are we telling them that they got to go?
Right. Okay, so the initial notices would go out to both, if there are residents, as well as the property owners, and an attempt to locate the property owners would go out in the next several weeks. Then appraisals would need to be completed. That would be within, this is all on the timeline that I provided to the board. Right. The appraisals and surveys would be completed. Once those are completed, and we're looking at probably at the end of May, offer letters would go out to the property owners.
Right.
At that point in time, and as I mentioned before, for the next 30 to 60 days, those negotiations would take place once those offer letters go out to the property owners. It's only when those bona fide negotiations fail, and again, that's what we're looking to avoid, that the county goes forward and serves a complaint and files it with the court. It's not until that whole process has been completed that a notice goes to the tenants with regard to relocation. That's when our consultant steps back in and assists with the relocation efforts.
So,
Mr. Vice President Gill?
So all that has to happen first before they're dealt with, and at that point, then they would deal with this relocation service agency.
Correct.
Okay. And the relocation service agency is obligated to do what?
So they're governed by the Division of Community Affairs,
right.
The state of New Jersey.
Right.
So they file something that's called a RAP. It's a workable relocation assessment plan. That's once they're in communication with the tenants, again, if there are any, what their needs are, what their income is, where they would be willing to go, what type of moving expenses they would have, what the family makeup is. They get all of that information together, they submit it to the DCA at the state, and then it's only when that's approved by the DCA, and again, this is all governed by statute, once that RAP plan has been approved by the DCA, it comes back to the consultant, and once it's authorized, he can start working with them to actually get them, he'll give them other work, it's called a workable relocation site, and he can give them up to 3 sites that they can choose from. Again, there's rental assistance available, mortgage assistance available, moving expenses available that he will assist them with in all of those 3 facets. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but.
Vice President Gill?
We wouldn't know at this point in time, without engaging in the service, the composition of the residents that are currently in that.
No, I don't know that.
So I guess my question would be, are there children in the
I don't know that.
in the house that may currently be in school? Okay.
Freeholders? Freeholder Richardson.
Yeah, just a couple other questions. So you said someone from the county has already gone out and reached out to the tenants occupying.
Physically gone
79.
out. Physically gone out, yes.
So did they ask them how they're paying their rent and how to rent?
They weren't able to speak with anybody. There was no, on each of the occasions they went, there was nobody in the property. That's why, again, based on the condition of 81 South 11th and the fact that nobody has ever come to the door, it is our presumption that it is not occupied at all.
I'm only talking about 79.
They have not reached out anybody there. There's not been anybody that they've been able to speak to there.
So have we been able to ascertain whether or not taxes are paid up on these two properties?
I don't know the answer to that.
So I think we need to start there. We need to find out if the taxes are being paid and who they're being paid by.
Utilities.
And I think that's the first place we need to start.
Again, the property owners that we have reached out to are based on the tax records of the city of Newark.
And are
So
the taxes paid up?
again, I don't know the answer to, Freeholder, but I can tell you that the property owners are listed on the rolls for the city of Newark.
Freeholder Bobadilla.
You know, I think my colleague brings a really good point, and that's something that needs to be explored also. If the tenants are paying rent, you follow the money, nobody's gonna, no landlord is gonna deny rent in any way, shape, or form. And you follow that money, you'll find out who the landlord is, who the owners are. And I just, I'm not thoroughly convinced that we've done that with our due diligence. I know we have the capacity to do it, and there's nothing, there's nothing within me that would love to impede what we're doing there. This is an amazing, school that we're trying to create there and give this beautiful addition and resource to the community, but I just don't think we've exercised all our options at this point.
Freeholders. Freeholder Vice President Gill.
One additional question, Madam President, and this might have been mentioned before, so I apologize if it was, but have we ever taken a similar action on another piece, on another project that the county's done in the last 10 years?
Yes.
Which?
I believe there's a condemnation action involving Riverfront Park that James Paganelli was involved in. That's the, Carmen, was that the last one that you're aware of? Yeah.
It might also be helpful to you, Madam President, if that, if the board could just be refreshed to see if it's a, for lack of a better phrase, if it's a apples to apples comparison, but I'd be interested just to see what the details were and then how that process ultimately played itself out.
If I can just,
Mr. Pollack, yeah?
my memory is, I don't think that was a residential property.
It was not.
It was commercial.
But it was a
property.
condemnation action.
It was, yeah, but it's a different issue in terms of
Relocation.
bodies, yeah,
Right.
of the type
It was
of
supposed-
residence.
Empty.
And through you, Madam
Trailer
President,
boxes on that property.
I'm assuming you're not bringing this, to the administration, you're not bringing this if you didn't feel that the legal liability that we might incur once we do potentially contact the owner, and then maybe they decide that they want to fight back and they don't want to agree to this.
There is a built-in
process.
appeal process through eminent domain, so the property owners, if they disagree with any of this, do have the right to appeal the condemnation action by the county, and then that's ultimately decided by a court.
That's through the courts.
It is.
Was that Freeholder Toro's hand I saw?
Yeah.
Is there a chance, given that the tenants are in compliance and we have their consent, is there a chance that they do not get relocated, that the families are homeless after the whole process?
No, that's the entire purpose of retaining a relocation consultant, is so that that does not happen.
Good, I feel comfortable with that answer, thank you.
Freeholders. Freeholder Bobadilla.
When do we need these parcels of land? According to our construction schedule, and what exactly are these two parcel of land are they gonna house a building, or is there an infrastructure gonna be in its place, or anything?
I don't believe that in the immediate future, the intention is for an infrastructure. It would be, again, my understanding is for either green space or parking at this point. It is a ever-evolving project. When we first entered into this, I don't know that the Sheriff's Command Center was part of the anticipated neighborhood, but that ultimately is how that ended up. So at this point, it is parking or green space, and again, for the enhancement of the surrounding area. I know the county executive understands that this process is lengthy. That's why he was looking to begin the process now, because he is anxious to begin and continue the renewal of that area and that neighborhood.
Freeholder Jones.
This company that you're talking in terms of condemning or condemnation, have you had any history or record as to the type of work that they do in terms of credibility? It's not like they just snatch up and just go through the process and just take it. It's a work record, recommendation. Have you seen any of the work that they've done throughout the county or different areas of...
A work record of who? The relocation expert?
Yes, the relocation expert.
Yes, and in fact, we actually work with outside counsel on a lot of these real estate transactions. This is somebody that they've used routinely in the past in condemnation actions for their relocation purposes. And I also include in your packet, Freeholder Joan, just a brief summary of the company itself.
I see that.
And it has a listing right on their dossier of other public entities that they've worked for, including Jersey City Redevelopment Agency, City of Jersey City, New Jersey Turnpike Authority, Rockaway Valley Regional Sewage Authority, City of Pleasantville, Township of Hanover, Burlington County, the ECIA, Essex County Improvement Authority, Cinnaminson, Borough of Fort Lee. So they're quite vetted throughout the state of New Jersey. Union County Improvement Authority, Borough of North Arlington, Morris County Municipal Utilities Authority, and New Jersey Meadowlands Commission are some of the other public entities that they've done work for.
Freeholders? So I'm sensing a consensus of feeling uncomfortable with this. And I'm reading head nods right now. And I have to say, Ms. Gassion and Mr. Jackson, in our leadership meetings, and this has been discussed, the main question that I had was, who knocked on the door? And what I was told was that there was a company that went out there and did that, and that there was an assessment, and that 79 South 11th Street appeared to be vacant.
81.
What I was told in leadership was that 79 South 11th Street appeared to be vacant after someone went out and knocked on the door. Because I'm a very practical person. Phone calls, certified mail letters, who went out and knocked on the door? We say we're community, community, community. Go and knock on the neighbor's door to see if somebody lives there. And I was told that a company had went to do that, and it was confirmed that there was no tenant and that it was not occupied. So upon allowing this on the agenda, I was under the impression that both of these properties were vacant and abandoned, not only by their owners, but also that there were no tenants present. That was the impression that I got from the leadership meeting. And I'm sensing unrest with my colleagues because it seems as if that through your answers several times that only a phone call and 4 certified letters had went out, and that no one has yet knocked on the door, except you might think that somebody did. But who would have done that? Who was the person who knocked on the door?
If I could just backtrack to your initial comments. Respectfully, I'm quite certain that in leadership I indicated that one of the properties, if I misspoke and said 79, I apologize, but I'm quite certain that in leadership I indicated only one of the properties appear to us to be abandoned. And I did indicate to the freeholder president and clerk that there was one of the 2 properties that may have had tenants in it. We were uncertain, but from the abandoned view from the street with windows out and no doors and piled up garbage on the property, that 81 did appear to be the entity that was not occupied either by tenants or the owner. At the time that we met in leadership, I had been under the impression that this firm had made overtures towards both of those properties. That was incorrect, and I apologize for that. When I spoke to the gentleman who represents this firm, Late last week, he indicated that he needed, as I was indicating to Freeholder Bobadilla earlier, he needed the authorization of this board for the condemnation action to go forward before he was able to physically go onto those properties and speak to any occupants of those buildings. I do believe that I indicated in leadership that the county executive himself has been on site at both of these properties. And he has indicated to the administration that he has been there, I know, on a weekly basis, attempting to reach any tenant, any owner, spoken to neighbors, and has been unsuccessful.
Yes, in leadership, you did tell me that the county executive, drives by.
And that's the person that I was speaking of.
Constantly looking in. And thank you for acknowledging that I was misinformed as far as the firm going to knock on the door. Because
Yes.
in leadership, I was under the impression that the firm had already been, commissioned to go and see if the tenant lived in 79 South 11th and was told that there was no one there. But now I'm hearing that there's still a potential that there's someone there. And let me just be clear, for the record, and for my freeholder colleagues, I'm a housing advocate. I understand eminent domain very well. And it has been my position on this board through the entire time that Ms. Gassion has come before us on behalf of the administration. You often hear me say, whenever they're talking to us about acquiring properties on that street, you hear me ask one question: is eminent domain going to be used? And when Ms. Gassion says no, I say okay, and then I vote yes, right? So this one here is a tricky situation, because if it's a vacant and abandoned property, and you also hear me talk about vacant and abandoned properties a lot. Vacant and abandoned properties attract crime. If it's a landlord who's not there, that presents an issue. If it's not owner occupied and tenants aren't being treated right, but if there's no one living there, it truly can attract crime, right? So this would be a solution to do something regarding the blight. The county executive wants to acquire these blight properties that are, one, definitely vacant and abandoned, the other one could potentially have a tenant, to build something beautiful. That I'm not opposed of building something beautiful, but it's just I'm still unclear as to whether or not there's going to be a tenant found in one of those properties and that they face some type of issue or hardship because of this. And I do understand about the process of the eminent domain and the controls built in for relocation, but I'm very uncomfortable with not knowing for certain. What made me comfortable with this in leadership was thinking that a firm had already went out there, had been retained to go out there and to do this, and now I'm hearing that was misinformation and was not the case. So, and I'm sensing unrest amongst my colleagues. So, Mr. McInerney, I saw you had something to say.
Freeholder Richardson addressed it with regard to the property taxes.
So
Madam President, if I may.
Mr. Jackson.
Yes, if I may comment. I think, having been in the leadership meetings, I think it was made, Ms. Gassion made it clear, I thought, that there was one house that had tenants in it. The home number 81, I don't know if anybody has had the opportunity to take a look at it, but clearly it is an abandoned property. It's a blight on the neighborhood. And in fact, I think the question that might be incumbent upon us as government leaders, and not only us at the county, but also at the city level, is in fact, why do we let that stand? Versus why are we trying to figure out a way to protect or to, I understand property rights, but the fact of the matter is whomever owns that property has shown utter disregard for the city, for the county, for the neighborhood, and this provides us with an opportunity to address it while actually paying them fair value for whatever they want, for whatever their property is worth. That will be determined by either by the courts in most cases. So I don't quite candidly view us as being knights or something like that, or heroes, because we're in fact perhaps looking at taking an avenue where clearly someone who's had no respect for this community or this city to allow a property to remain in that state. And now we have an opportunity to take control of it, demolish it and put something that's going to be very attractive for the neighborhood. It is doing of no value at the moment. In fact, this is incredibly detrimental to leave it as it is. I mean, to me, the real issue is why haven't we been more aggressive? In the county's case, it hasn't been necessary because of the school project, but one could ask the question of the city or whomever, why is this being allowed to exist? With respect to number 79, we do know that, I believe, some of our staff has actually knocked on the door, and the county executive indicated that he had as well. But the whole point of condemnation is to say we have tried and made a very good effort to address this issue, to negotiate, to talk to the owners. This particular acquisition for this school has not happened in a vacuum. We've acquired a number of properties for this school, all of which have been done on a friendly basis, negotiating in good faith. To somewhat, I think I can infer from some of the comments that we have now somehow become these dastardly people who are trying to take away someone's property. I think is not fair. We have tried, as Ms. Gassion has said on a number of occasions, to address it in good faith, have not had a response. This is a tool that's provided to government to try to kickstart the process and get the person's attention. This does now allow us to come in and steal the property. It has to be paid for fair value, and I think it's really incumbent upon us to kickstart the process and see where it goes. This is not removing anybody. This is not kicking tenants out. This is simply giving us an opportunity to do what needs to get done to move a very positive process along. And I think we'll be doing the community a disservice by not getting going on it.
And if I may just add, in the event we had been able to get in touch with the property owners of 79 South 11th, and we entered into good faith negotiations with them through the normal purchase process, and we reached an agreed upon price, and we purchased that property, those tenants would have to be relocated, again, assuming there's tenants in there, without the benefit of a relocation consultant to assist them with rental expenses, mortgage expenses, moving expenses, as well as identifying another location for them to go to. That doesn't happen when a landlord who owns a property says, I'm sorry, I'm selling the property to the county, and you now have to get out in 30 or 60 days. We would, in fact, be entering into negotiations with an owner and then providing an additional benefit to a tenant who's currently living there in the event that the condemnation goes forward.
Mr. Jackson, regarding 80, I agree with you 100%. That's what I'm saying. You know, I see the plight, right? Vacant and abandoned properties attract crime. There's something, you know, that we have an opportunity to do something and build something beautiful on there. I get it. 79, and I also understand very clear, we are not able to get in contact with the owners as of yet. I understand that, okay? But tenants have rights too. And my only concern is the one, as it has been from the very beginning, is the possibility of the tenant in 79 South 11th Street. And it seems like one day we're very sure there's someone there, and next day we're not sure. You know, I'm trying to figure that out. And I understand the process, but eminent domain is such a sensitive thing. Yes. And although it is a tool that the government has that can be used to do some good, sometimes it can build distrust in the community when it is a tool that is used. And that's something that I'm also very well aware of. You know, so I understand what you're saying, Mr. Jackson. I don't, you know, completely disagree with you. But it's just that tenant that I thought and was under the impression, again, that there was already a firm that had went out there to research this thing, and now I'm hearing that that is not the case. Mr. McInerney, Mr. Paulvecchio, Ms. Gassion, is there any way that there can be a firm retained in order to, you know, research this more, or research is the wrong word, I guess investigate whether or not someone's living there or not before action is taken on this? That's one of the things that I kind of gathered from my colleagues' comments.
I don't think, Madam President, if I may, I don't think we've ever indicated that we didn't think there was somebody in 79.
That was indicated to me before. It was. It was. It was. Ms. Freeholder Luciano?
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I was going to stay quiet on this, but after all this discussion, I figured I'd throw in my 2 cents. So since I've sat on this board since 2011, we've always been a county that believes in home rule. The county always goes in favor of the municipality. Has anyone thought about bringing this to the municipal mayor and council for them to pass a resolution supporting our action, which then gives the county the cover of what we're doing here? I mean, whenever we fix up a park or we do things out in the county, we usually go to the local governing body and say, hey, do you guys agree with this? Do you want us to do it? Do you want to put forward a non-binding resolution to give us the support that we need to stand here or sit here and say, hey, we're moving forward, and obviously we have the support of the locals?
That was not something that we had contemplated doing. It's not required by statute that we do that, and that was not something that we had considered as doing as part of this process.
Okay. Well, I would like to put on record that I think that's something we should do, especially to keep in line with everything else we do in the county with home rule. Because I don't represent the West Ward, but how does the council member feel? Those are his constituents in the West Ward. And I'd like to see at least something, again, that supports what we're doing here. I think the school is a great project. I think it's beautiful, but I don't think we need to be barking into somebody's backyard, eminent domaining properties and doing whatever we're doing if we don't have support of the local ruling governing body. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, so I agree fully with Mr. Jackson. That's why my questions are more geared about the tenants than the owners. I think Ms. Gassion made a very good point that the tenants get more assistance this way rather than, you know, when they do negotiate with the owners. But my final question on this is, will you have an opportunity to come back before this board, before the commendation process is over, and state to us that the tenants were successfully relocated?
I would be happy to provide any updates that the board requests with regard to this entire process, not just the relocation of the tenants, but at each part of the process as we go from one step to the next. I'm happy to keep the board updated
I
as
think
we proceed.
that would, you know, be really important so that, you know, when we talk about this issue going forward, we know that the tenants were taken care of.
Understood.
You know, so I mean, after hearing everything, you know, I'll tell you what my final conclusion is. So, Mr. Jackson, you did point out some really good points regarding that. You know, we know that much too often in urban communities, you know, tenants are just, you know, victimized by landlords left and right, especially absentee LLC landlords. And even though I'm quite uncomfortable with the whole thing, and as long as we can get your certification that you will keep us abreast of everything, I do like the fact that there are some resources for these tenants should they have to be relocated as opposed to none. And that for me is you know, the final, you know, the final factor for me, just because I think any help, you know, would be great at this point in time. But I think in the future, should we acquire property for one of our projects, I think we do need to do a little bit better than just sending out registered mail or trying to contact somebody. I think we really need to have a process outlining an effective means of communications and making direct contact with who these entities are, following the money, following the tax, you know, everything that needs to be done. But I'd rather vote in favor of this, knowing that the tenants, should they have to be displaced in one manner or another, which looks like it's going to happen, at least they have some resources available to them. Okay, thank you.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes, Mr. Jackson, I thoroughly agree, because you don't know how much we would love to get that area done. But we do want to make sure that it's done the right way with the due diligence, making sure that we know that if they're keeping their taxes up, apparently, you know, they're trying to save it for something, but we need to make sure that we dot all the I's and cross all the T's before we start making decisions like that, because there are people in those communities that's looking for us to take stuff from them. They're already kind of wondering, how did we get some of the properties that we've gotten? We've been able to kind of quail that down, because as you know, my full-time occupation is I'm the chief of staff for that West Ward councilman. And I have been working with the administration here about properties and things around there. And one of the major promises was it would not be any eminent domain to none of those residents. And that was one of the promises that was made.
I can, through you, Madam President, I can assure you, Freeholder, that we will conduct the process as you requested in terms of the highest integrity and protecting those tenants. And I think that obviously the price will be a fair price because it has to be according to the courts. But the idea is that we need to kickstart it somehow, and if we're going to be ignored, just we have to try to do something, and I think that's really all this will enable us to do.
Freeholder Jones?
I'm just going to make a statement. With those LLCs, and it usually occur in urban areas, and I know for a fact that it is hard to reach whoever the taxes, but nobody know who they are. So only thing I'm going to suggest, and we as a body, is to look at our state legislators and change the law, because this is what brings about deterioration of the community. Nobody can find nobody, but the taxes are being paid and they aren't doing anything. And you talk about eminent domain or whatever, but the law needs to be changed that if they do not come up to code as each municipality required for residents or individuals who own property, then something needs to be done, and this is what they do. They make money, but they don't put anything back into the community. So this is something that we should request as a body for the state legislators to see, can we bring legislation back? Because my hometown, there are many abandoned properties, and it tears down the community and the quality of life for those citizens, and especially your property when you can't sell it. And I can imagine where the school is at and the community. There are some people who have very nice homes, but when you cannot get the township to be able to expedite it, to get them to move or to get rid of the house, whatever it is, then of course it becomes an eyesore. So it's a no-win situation. The only person that gains is the people who own the property, and they have no personal value in it. It's more of an investment for the highest bidder. When they get ready that the property is able to be sold, they profit from it, but the community suffers.
Freeholder Johnson.
Through you, Madam President. There was a bill passed in the Senate in 2014 by State Senator Ronald Rice that anyone that leaves a property abandoned, the city sends out 2 or 3 letters to notify them. After that, if they don't get no response, it's $25,000 a day for the days that they're not responding to the property to clean it up or to make it better, and then they have the right to be able to take it from them through that process. I will get a copy of that law and have it sent, as a matter of fact, and I'll have it sent to our Freeholder board so that we can all share on that, because most of your urban communities need that kind of law.
Freeholder Sebo.
Thank you. I've listened carefully to everything that was said here, both by the freeholders and the administration. I think it's really necessary that we obtain these properties. I'm comfortable with this resolution as long as the administration is going to go forth and follow the correct procedures to accomplish this end. I don't have any problem with it at all. I am sure that with your due diligence, as you go forward, if there is a problem, we will know about it. You will tell us, and I'm confident of the outcome. And I think it will benefit the entire section of Newark. I would think it will benefit the area, and I think that the school will be a tremendous benefit. And having the property by eminent domain is something that, at this point, we need to do.
Freeholders? Okay, so what I'm seeing now and I want to make sure that, I'm going to poll the freeholders on the record. Because I want to make sure that what I'm assessing is accurate. So there's two options here. One is to vote no for this ordinance, right? But the other option is three options, I'm sorry, there's three options. One is to vote yes, one is to vote no, and the other one is that we could take a vote to table it until the next meeting, just so that we can gather more information, the taxes and so on and so forth. Now, a few of you have already communicated with me, and what I'm seeing is a split. So I'm asking for each of you to kind of make your position known, so that I know whether or not to call this to a vote or to call this to adjourn it to the next meeting.
I think you'd want to know if people want to vote or to adjourn.
Vote
Not
or
necessarily
adjourn.
if it's yes or no.
Vote or adjourn. So I need to know what your comfortability level is. So I'm going to start over here. Freeholder Bobadilla?
I say vote.
You say vote.
As long as we're reassured that those steps will be taken.
Okay. Freeholder Vice President?
Vote.
Vote. Freeholder Johnson?
Adjourn.
Freeholder Jones?
Adjourn.
Freeholder Luciano?
I vote to adjourn, but I want to put on record because I'd like to see something in writing from the city, as is something that happened last year involving Milburn. When our board wanted to take action in Milburn, we were told that we support the municipality, so I'd like to see something from the municipality.
Freeholder Richardson?
So I'm going to vote to adjourn this because I want to give the respect to the freeholder who actually covers that ward and give him an opportunity to talk to the councilman in that ward. And Senator Rice also is from that ward. So I want to respect my colleague, and so I want to vote to adjourn.
Freeholder Sebo?
I want to vote.
Freeholder Toro?
I feel comfortable with the responses I received from the administration, so I lean to vote, but I'll go with the majority.
Freeholder Vice President?
Yeah, I just wanted to, Madam President, just make one, since folks made comments around their vote, just wanted to make one comment. I think it needs to be clear, right, that there are two very, very distinct issues that are being raised here. One is the treatment of the residents who are currently in potentially one of those properties. And I think a very good point was made that we have voted on multiple house sales with the county for this project without knowing what happened to the people that were in those properties. So no one's conscience is clear here tonight if you think that you're protecting the residents that are in those properties, because we've already done that. So that's number one, and we did it in a way that did not protect the residents one bit. That's number one. If there were residents, I'm not saying anything happened, but this actual process actually protects the residents quite a bit more than what has already happened. I understand the point of wanting to find the tax records. I hear you on that. I do think that's a bit of information that the board should be equipped with, not just the actual payment, which I think is something we can easily find, and it hopefully maybe gets us one step closer to the owner, which maybe gets us one step closer to that decision. I heard enough to vote on this tonight, but if the will of the board is not to adjourn, then I will support the will of the board.
Freeholder Richardson?
Just another comment. So while I agree with my colleague Gil, and I agree with Mr. Jackson in terms of something needs to be done, I hear you loud and clear. But all we're doing is adjourning the meeting. We're voting to adjourn the meeting until the next meeting. So we're not
voting to
putting it
adjourn
off.
the resolution.
I mean, the resolution, we're not putting it off indefinitely. We're talking about just till the next meeting. So if there's a a reason that we have to vote tonight, that is imminent, that something is going to happen, or there's some kind of something that's going to happen that's going to put the whole process in jeopardy, that it has to be done tonight, then I'd like to hear that.
Through you, Madam President, I can't speak directly to that freeholder, but I do think that at some level, not doing anything to a situation that we know is one that's...
To the next meeting.
Next meeting is May 3rd, just so we know it's not, the meeting next is canceled.
Next meeting.
But if I may, in terms of an adjournment, I'm not sure what information is going to be gleaned between now and May 3rd to help with make a voting decision. I'm not sure what information is going to be gathered.
Freeholder Richardson?
So I think one of the things that we really haven't established, according to Ms. Gassion, that no one has made contact with any tenant. So you don't really know if anybody's even living there. You just suspect that someone's living there. But that's some information that we could ascertain between now and then, that if there actually are tenants there.
Well, we've said that we're confident that 79 is occupied and 81
You're
is not.
confident? How so?
When you see the people there. I mean, if you...
But how come nobody's been able to make contact?
And some level, too, you have to be... I don't want to speak to Ms. Gassion's point, but we also, too, have to be cognizant of our ability to approach people about certain issues. But you want to talk?
Correct. Again, as I've indicated, I know the county executive, and as I've also indicated, leadership has made many attempts to speak to not only the owners or tenants of these two properties, but elsewhere within that community to explain to them what's happening in connection with the vocational school. He has not been able to personally speak to anybody in either of those two properties. As I indicated before, 81, based on the condition of the property, does appear to be abandoned. The county executive, I cannot speak for myself, has never seen anybody come in and out of that property. No one that he has spoken to has indicated that there has been anybody living there in recent months. With regard to 79, just in the last week, I asked members of county staff to go out there to take photos of both of the properties. There are filled garbage pails out on the street to be picked up by the city. That was an indication to us that there is somebody living in the property, to answer your question. Have we physically been able to reach somebody? No. And again, we're trying to get in touch with the property owners. Assuming that tenants are living there, it is beyond our authorization or jurisdiction to go up and knock on the door and start speaking to a tenant about condemnation or about taking the property. And would not be received well, I would imagine, by the property owner. So again, because the property owner is off-site, they're in Queens or they're in Union, New Jersey, we have been, through the proper procedures, trying to reach them.
Through you, Madam President, I don't think that would be a smart conversation by anyone to talk to a tenant who's not the owner about condemnation. But one thing you could ask them about is who they pay their rent to, how their rent is paid. Maybe there's a way that you can make contact and find out who the owner is and where they are. But I wouldn't ask them about condemnation. That makes no sense.
Freeholder Jones.
Well, my concern is, being new on the sport, it was something dealing with one of the suburbia cities in Essex County. And the big concern was the residents and looking out for the welfare of that municipality. Newark is the largest city in Essex County. The only thing I'm saying, you have a mayor, you have a council. That if this property is going to bring about an improvement for the county, but at the same time, we're all elected officials. How would that look for the mayor of Newark and people out there picketing in the community that they came and just put people out of their home and left them homeless or whatever? Why can't we communicate? You have attorneys, you have the mayor in the city and the freeholder, just like we are talking. Find out which is the best route to take. It's all about building the school. We're talking about a parking lot, but at the same time, you're talking about people's lives. And I just think if you're in the mayor, this is his home, at least he should be aware of it and can give you some more insight as to that particular area. And not only this, you have council people who represent the West Ward. And once we all on the same page, then whatever comes up, we can stand together as different and say, I didn't know. You don't know if nobody never told you. So only thing I'm saying, and I hear the humanistic part of it, is that we need to go back to the point that it can be done. But at least make Newark West Ward council person at large, people, the entire council, and especially the mayor. Because it is in Newark, and if it winds up being a success, he will get the glory. And if he winds up, it's a failure or disaster, he'll get the blame. So the only thing I'm saying, we can work together. This is government, it's nothing personal, but we want to make everybody accountable, and when the blame falls, it falls on all, not just one. Thank you.
Through you, Madam President.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes. Just wanted to add, you know, the city of Newark has contributed land to this project. I believe it's how many properties?
They gave us a total of 11 properties.
The city of Newark has given us 11 properties to facilitate this project. So I think that alone is a statement of its support for what's going on for the school project. So this is not being done in a vacuum. In fact, probably the city of Newark is the largest property contributor to the school.
Those two properties
Right,
you're talking about.
I'm talking about the 11 that
I
they've
know,
already. Right.
but
So-
you're talking about two now.
Right, but if they weren't supportive, I don't think they would have,
Well, like I said, it's this.
I don't,
People have concerns. We want it to be done. But if, at least let's work through it in a few days to make sure when we vote, so everybody can go and say, I voted, and they can say well, their reasons for it as opposed to put in the blame. I didn't vote, you did, and this and that, and it caused a lot of confusion. So let's get on the same page. That's all I'm asking for.
So, and just to be clear, I don't think that having questions about this use of eminent domain means that the school project isn't, that we don't support it, or, you know, that by the city of Newark selling us those properties for $1, you know, I just don't think that one has to do with the other. We know that the city of Newark is in support of the school. We know that this Freeholder board is in support of the school. We voted to build the school. We voted for those other properties to be purchased from the owners. And just to clear something up, my conscience is clear with how we went about acquiring those other properties, especially because a lot of those other properties were owner occupied, and they were dealing directly with the owners who were currently living on that block. And it was a very fair sales transaction. I am in support of the school. I do think that what the county executive is doing and his vision is a beautiful vision, and it is something that I absolutely stand behind. But we've been talking about this for literally an hour and a half.
Yes.
And we're on resolution number 1. So that goes to show you that we clearly have a lot of questions and a lot of unrest and uneasiness. So with that, I'm going to call a vote to adjourn this to the next meeting, but, you know, we need to get the answers to all of the questions, because at the next meeting, you know, I would expect that this body should have all the answers it needs in order to take action on this item by the next meeting. Okay? So to be clear, this is a vote to adjourn, because what I'm seeing is that based off of what you said, I polled the freeholders, and it's half and half to adjourn. Okay, so we're going to vote to adjourn. We're going to call a vote. This is what the vote is for. I keep saying it. This is a vote to adjourn it until our next meeting, which is
May 3rd.
May 3rd. Okay, Vice President Gill?
Madam President, I'm going to prolong, I apologize, going to prolong this after an hour and a half. But can we just have some, I think you heard a couple of questions, but I just speak for me. The piece of information that I'm most interested in is the actual tax, when we talk about the ownership, the actual tax records in terms of payment, just to see that we've exhausted that option. That Freeholder Johnson that you mentioned might also shed more clarity on who the owner is. So, So specifically, exhausting that option, if the administration can work with the city to make sure we've done that. I know we looked at the actual tax record itself, but I think multiple people have raised the idea of following the money in terms of the property taxes themselves. And then secondly, in terms of the actual residents who are there, I think we all share the commitment to making sure, and I actually feel better that there is a service that's going to help assist, and that no one's going to be, be put out. And I would agree with you, Madam President, that the actual use of eminent domain, I would also mind, just for the record, like to know what was said when this project was started, because I know a lot of things were said about on the record about the use of eminent domain. So if we're going to go back on something, and again, this is in no way to try to embarrass anyone or play got you, but there were a lot of things at the groundbreaking for this that were said, and commitments that were made, and I think it would be also helpful just so we hear from everyone again to make sure that the relationship with our partners, and they're clearly invested, that we're keeping that commitment and those conversations have been had.
I was just taking notes because I just want to make sure that I have all the different areas that you need the administration to get back to you on.
Yes, and the other question is about the firm. Again, I'm not one for a lot of bureaucracy, although I find myself in a bureaucratic environment. Who's going to go knock on the door? I'm hearing two things. I'm hearing we saw people come in and out. I'm hearing we saw garbage coming in and out. I'm just hearing so many conflicted stories. I want to know for sure, does someone live there? And then, if so, I think my colleague asked the question of, who are they paying the rent to? If that's an appropriate question, to ask that, those tenants, and to just notify them a little bit about the process. Again, for the record, the other units that we purchased were mainly dealings with the owners who were currently living there. And the owners, those properties were purchased. Eminent domain was not used at any point in time. But this is something that's new, and we just want to make sure. I'm going to say this again for the record. I have said this to the county executive as well as to all parties here before, that this project is something that is good for the community. It is a beautiful project, that I am in support of the overall project of the school. And I would hate to see such a beautiful project be tarnished by citizens who may not understand the process of what has happened with these properties and not being able to get in touch with the owner, so on and so forth, and the title of eminent domain. Just creating unrest in the community. So I want to make sure that, as Freeholder Jones indicated, that all parties are made aware of this, that everybody can understand clearly what is going on. As Freeholder Vice President Gill indicated, what was spoken to the community when we communicated that this project was going to be going on, what was promised. Was it a promise that was made that eminent domain wouldn't be used? I don't know. We don't know. So we just want to make sure that we're communicating very well, because as stated before, eminent domain is a very, very sensitive issue. And although it can be very beneficial to both community and government, it can also be very detrimental to the trust in which we have built in that community, in specifics to the West Ward. Is there a mover and a second to vote to adjourn on resolution number 1? Moved by Freeholder Johnson, second by Freeholder Richardson.
Freeholder Bobadilla.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Gill.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Sebo.
Yes.
Freeholder Toro.
Sorry, would you repeat, what are we voting?
Same thing.
Yes.
Freeholder President Timberlake.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you.
voted yes, Pat.
She said yes.
We went back and voted because we didn't have a mover in second.
I'm still no. Sorry.
Change your
I didn't realize you were doing it over again.
Move for you to see what I'm telling.
I can't hear you. I didn't realize you were doing it.
Resolution number 3, Madam Clerk, please read.
Resolution 3, Office of the Sheriff, authorization for the County of Essex to apply for and accept a sub-grant award of the federal fiscal year 2015 from the New Jersey Department of Law and Public Safety Division of State Police Office of Emergency Management for Emergency Management Performance Grant number for fiscal year 16-EMPG-EMAA-0700 in the amount of $111,980.13.
Mr. Jackson?
As a matter of correction, that should be the fiscal year 2016. The grant is for 7/1/16 to 6/30/17. It will consist of $55,000 of federal funds and a $56,980.13 match on a part of the county, and will allow us to ability to prevent, respond to, and recover from acts of terrorism, natural disasters, and other catastrophic events.
Okay. Mr. McInerney?
No questions, Madam President.
Mr. Polavecchio?
No questions.
Freeholders? All right. Thank you. Is there a representative here, Mr. Jackson?
It's just for to apply for a grant.
Okay, I'm just going to ask that just in case, because I see people here. I don't know exactly which ones they're here for. All right. Hearing no questions, please list it for action later this evening. Please move to resolution number 4 and read.
Resolution for Office of Prosecutor Professional Services Agreement, continuing legal education, Hillary M. Burnell, amount not to exceed $57,000.
Okay. Mr. Jackson?
Yes, County Counsel Gassion is here to explain this item.
Ms. Gassion?
Courtney Gassion, Essex County Council. This comes out of the Essex County Prosecutor's Office. This same item came before the board last year. This is the annual contract for Hillary Brunel. Ms. Brunel is a former assistant prosecutor with the Essex County Prosecutor's Office. She's now, for the last several years, been retained as a consultant working for the Essex County Prosecutor's Office, and she is in charge of running their continuing legal education program. That is a program that offers free continuing legal education classes for all of the assistant prosecutors employed by the Essex County Prosecutor's Office. They also offer that same courtesy to attorneys from the Essex County Counsel's Office. As many of you know, attorneys in the state of New Jersey have a requirement of 24 credit hours every 2 years in order to remain eligible to practice law in the state of New Jersey. And these are the classes that they would be eligible to take in order to fulfill those requirements at no cost.
Thank you. Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Mr. Polavecchio?
No questions.
Freeholders? Thank you. Hearing none, please listen for action later this evening. Please move to resolution number 5 and read.
Resolution 5, Department of Corrections Contract Award to Kiefe Commissionary Network, the sole responsive and responsible bidder for the operation of the commissary at the Essex County Correctional Facility, May 1st, 2017 through April 30th, 2019.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes, Director Ortiz is here to answer your questions.
Madam President, Freeholder Board, I'm
Aren't
here.
you glad that you ate before you came in here?
Yes, I
And
did.
don't
Thank you
wish
very
you
much.
went before resolution number 1.
Thank you very much.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Ortiz. Please
Alfaro
explain.
Ortiz, Director, Essex County Correctional Facility. I'm here to indicate that we approved this particular contract with Keith Commissary. They've been there at least the 10 years I've been there, and they provide a service and commissary items, cosmetics, all kinds of different things, that comfort items for those that are under our charge, and they've done an exceptional job with that. They're the lowest responsible bidder, and we're thoroughly comfortable with the services they provide. With me, I have Mr. Greg Stroman. He's the account manager. In case there's any questions, he can ask any questions as to how he does his business.
Sir, would you like to come forward and tell us a bit about how you do your business in the contract?
Sure. Greg Stroman, account manager with Keefe Group. As Director Ortiz had mentioned, Keefe has been doing business with the county for over 10 years. We supply commissary, which includes food, hygiene, and electronic products. They're delivered to the facility once a week. That's pretty much it.
Mr. McInerney?
I don't have any questions, Madam President.
Mr. Polavecchio?
No, this is a 2-year contract.
Okay. Freeholders, any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, please list it for action later this evening. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please move to resolution number 6 and read.
Resolution 6, Department of Corrections approval of shared services agreement between the County of Hudson and the County of Essex for provision of supervision and security by Essex County for Hudson County inmates, detainees in the locked medical unit at East Orange General Hospital.
Mr. Jackson?
Mr. Ortiz.
This particular contract, it's a long-standing contract with the Hudson County along with other partners. They are the ones that use this service with us the most. They have a similar type of population, very sick. We manage their custodial care. The hospital manages their medical care. Right now we have one, we had 2 as of yesterday and 3 over the weekend, so they're constantly using it. It's a benefit to us because we have to maintain that unit for our inmates alone. With other counties, and specifically Hudson, they pay for our officers to, to cover our expenses in order to us to have that unit. It was very workable. It's been very successful. It's not a great dollar amount, but it does save us money.
Mr. McInerney?
This is a long-term contract. It's been in existence for an extended number of years, and I don't think it comprises of a lot of beds anyway. It's just
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
a very limited number of beds.
Correct.
Anyway, it was 6 or something.
It's 14 total.
14 is it total? Okay. I thought it was less. All right.
Mr. Polavecchio?
No questions.
Freeholders? Okay. Hearing none, thank you. Please list it for action later this evening. Number 7 has been withdrawn by the administration. Please move to resolution number 8.
Resolution 8, 2017 County Budget, insertion of items of revenue from the State of New Jersey, Department of Community Affairs for Community Services Block Grant, Division of Community Action, $325,343.
Okay, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, Mr. McCoy is here to answer your questions.
Good evening, Madam President, Freeholder Board, Terrence McCoy, Program Administrator. This grant is from the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs for services and programs for low-income constituents on trying to become self-sufficient and self-reliable.
Okay. Mr. McInerney?
It's a grant agreement, no cost to the county.
Mr. Polavecchio?
No questions.
Freeholders? I see that you have some of the grantees, the partners. If you'd just like to introduce them so they can stand. I know we previously have met each of them, unless there's anyone new that I need to know about.
The first is Irvington Neighborhood Improvement Corporation, Executive Director, Deborah Simpkins. East Orange Community Development Corporation, Ms. Connie Crawford. And Montclair Neighborhood Development Corporation, Albert Pelham.
Thank you. Freeholders, thank you so much for all the work that you do in your communities. We truly appreciate it. It is definitely needed and commended. Thank you. Please list it for action later this evening. Madam Clerk, please move to resolution number 9.
Resolution 9, Department of Citizen Services, Division of Community Action, amendment to subgrant agreement with East Orange Community Development Corporation under the Community Services Block Grant Program, January 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2017, from $62,000, adding $86,834 to amount not to exceed $149,334.
Mr. Jackson.
Yes, items actually 9, 10, and 11 relate to the three organizations that were just introduced. 9 is for the East Orange Community Development Corporation, and again, Mr. McCoy can explain, but basically these are just allocating those dollars to each of the entities.
Madam President, the agencies that were just here for those three resolutions, I was going to have them come up and give a little speech to you in the Freeholder board, but they walked out already. So
They wanted to go before resolution number
I have
1.
one here that's still left.
That's why. So call up who's here.
Deborah Simpkins from Irvington Neighborhood, which is for the next resolution for Irvington Neighborhood.
Thank you.
It's for number 10.
Good evening, Madam President Timberlake and the Board of Chosen Freeholders. I'm from Irvington Neighborhood Improvement, Deborah Simpkins, and we utilize this grant to provide gifts and promotions, giveaways. We have a food pantry. We have a soup kitchen that feeds upwards of about 8,000 meals a month to the indigent population in the East Ward of Irvington. And this grant is giving us the opportunity to do human services as well as social services.
Okay, Mr. Mack, you know what? Are you going to call the next? Okay.
And for resolution number 9, that will be East Orange Community Development Corporation. I will call Ms. Connie Crawford up.
Good evening, Madam President, honorable freeholders. I'm Connie Crawford, the ED of East Orange Community Development Corporation. The CSBG grants that we're allocated helps to service our communities of Orange and East Orange with employment readiness, housing counseling, financial literacy, case management for emergent needs, nutrition program, food pantry, Christmas toy distribution, Thanksgiving, basket distribution, back to school, book bag distribution, summer day camp program, and after school tutorial program, informational referral, just to name a few. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, the last agency is Montclair Neighborhood Development Corporation. Mr. Albert Pelham, Executive Director.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, freeholders. Our agencies kind of mirror each other, so a lot of the things that East Orange do, we also do. In addition, we do a lot of programs in the summertime with summer employment. Last summer, we were able to give 30 young people jobs for 20 hours a week at various nonprofits within the community. We have a veterans clothing closet, so where any veteran can come in and get clothes to homeless folks, whatever, to do things to that effect. And a new thing for us this cycle is that we have a collaboration with Montclair State, and we have an ESL program, and we currently have 32 people signed up with the ESL program. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for now.
Thank you so much. Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Freeholders? Mr. Polavecchio?
No questions.
Okay. Please list it for action at our later this evening. Is that resolution, that was resolution, Mr. Jackson, 9, 10, and 11?
Yeah, but I need to read 10 and 11.
Madam Clerk, please read resolutions 10 and 11.
Resolutions 10, Department of Citizen Services, Division of Community Action, amendment to sub-grant agreement with Irvington Neighborhood Improvement Corporation under the Community Services Block Grant Program, January 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2017, from $65,000, adding $86,833 to amount not to exceed $151,833. Resolution 11, Department of Citizen Services, Division of Community Action, amendment to sub-grant agreement with Montclair Neighborhood Development Corporation under the agreement with Montclair Neighborhood Community Development Corporation under the Community Services Block Grant Program, January 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2017, from $72,500, adding $89,333 to an amount not to exceed $161,833. Madam President, should I read Resolution 12?
Yes.
Resolution 12, 2017, County Budget Insertion of Items of Revenue from the State of New Jersey Division of Mental Health and Addiction Services for Alcoholism and Drug Abuse Services, $1,327,670.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson?
Yes, items 12 and 13 are linked, and Ms. Fishman is here to address
Thank
your
you. Madam
questions.
Clerk, can you please read 13 as well?
Yes. Resolution 13, Department of Health and Rehabilitation, Division of Community Health Services, acceptance and approval of Chapter 51, Alcohol and Drug Abuse Services, 2017, grant provisors and contracts in the aggregate amount not to exceed $889,000.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam President and Freeholders. I'm Eileen Fishman, Deputy Director of the Division of Community Health Services. This grant is for, as it says, for prevention, education, and detox services for people who are afflicted with substance use disorder. And this evening I have with me two of the larger providers, who one is from Newark and one is out of county right now, detox and rehab, residential rehab, Cora and Turning Point.
Thank you. If they can come forward to the microphone, just tell us a bit about what you do.
Mr. Idalio Cavallero.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Giodario Caballero. I have the honor of working for Cura, which is in Lincoln Park in Newark, and it's been serving Essex County for 44 years since it was founded. And I'm the Intake Department Director. And beforehand, I want to thank all of you because you're a great part of helping others like we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have with us this evening Mr. Robert Detour from Turning Point.
Thank you. Approving this resolution will provide additional funding for Turning Point. Last calendar year, we serviced approximately 400 residents of Essex County. Those of you who are not familiar with Turning Point, we operate a 133-bed inpatient facility in Patterson. We've been in business for 42 years. About 33 of those years are here in Essex County. We also have an office in Verona where we service about 1,000 patients on an outpatient basis. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. McInerney.
I don't have any questions. No.
Mr. Polavecchio. Freeholder Seabolt.
Thank you. I have the list of all those, I have the matrix of all those who have received contracts. And my question is, how does one obtain a contract? How are they determined? How is it determined who will get a contract?
Well, we RFP, and although not this year because this was a renewal of an RFP that was done 2 years ago. Once the RFPs come in, we rate them on a scale, And the Licata Board, we have a board of community and providers, and we all read the contracts, different people read them, and they're rated, and based on the number, it's over 85, right? No, 100, but 85 is the lowest number. And then whoever comes above that is offered a contract based on, of course, what their services are and the amount of money they offer, that they're asking for to provide the services. Some of them are prevention and education, others are detox, some is intensive outpatient, other is just outpatient. So we have many throughout the county. We have Montclair, we have Irvington, we have Newark.
I see.
Yeah.
So are these new contracts, any of them, or are they just continuing
This
contracts?
year, it's a continuance from last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't go out for new ones this year?
No, no.
For any reason?
Well, it was a 3-year RFP, so there was an option to
That's
renew.
right, you said that before.
Yeah.
All right, I understand. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Freeholders? Thank you very much. Please list it, that's both 12 and 13. Please list it for action later this evening. Madam Clerk, please move to resolution number 14.
Resolution 14, county budget insertion of items of revenue from the state of New Jersey Department of State for fiscal year 2017 County History Partnership Program, Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs, $23,180.
Okay. Mr. Jackson?
Yes, again, items 14 and 15 are linked.
Madam Clerk, please read 15.
Resolution 15, Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs, approval of sub-grant agreements for 2017 Local History Program grant with the New Jersey Historical Commission, amount not to exceed $23,180.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, can you also read to resolution 19, so 16, 17, 18, and 19?
Okay. Resolution 16, Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs, authorization to use the Essex County Recreation and Open Space Trust Fund to fund Grover Cleveland Park Playground Design Services in amount not to exceed $51,500. Resolution 17, Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs, authorization to use the Essex County Recreation and Open Space Trust Fund to fund Yantakop Park Playground Design Services in the amount not to exceed $58,000. Resolution 18, Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs, authorization to use the Essex County Recreation and Open Space Trust Fund to fund Verona Park Playground Design Services in amount not to exceed $49,500. Resolution 19, Department of Public Works, Division of Engineering, Professional Service Agreement to provide engineering design for the Grover Cleveland Park PS&S LLC, amount not to exceed $51,500.
Okay, please also read 20 and 21.
Resolution 20, Department of Public Works, Division of Engineering, Professional Services Agreement to provide engineering services for Yantica Park, Remington, and Vernick Engineers, amount not to exceed $58,000. Resolution 21, Department of Public Works, Division of Engineering, Professional Services, agreement to provide engineering design for Verona Park, Arterial LLC, amount not to exceed $49,500.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jackson?
Yes, Ms. Hartwick and Mr. Zaitz are here to answer your questions on these items.
Good evening, Kate Hartwig, Deputy Director, Essex County Park System. Items number
14 and 15 are linked together, as Mr. Jackson said. Number 14 is the award of our grant agreement from New Jersey Historic Commission, and is then re-granted out to our local history organizations. We had 10 organizations this year with grant agreements being put forth today. That award was also increased from the state this year, and therefore the award amounts to the local organizations were also increased.
Okay, thank you. Resolution 16.
Joshua Zates, Essex County Parks. I'm sorry, Madam Chair, you say 15 or 16?
16.
16, sure. I can certainly talk to you about 16, 17, 18 are also related to 19, 20, and 21. They 16, 17, and 18 are allocations from the Open Space Advisory Board, which was to request funding for various playground designs. All three projects will have similar design scopes. They're going to feature fencing, be appealing to both boys and girls, ADA compliant, rubber safety surfaces. They're also going to have 2 separate play areas for 2 to 5-year-olds as well as 5 to 12-year-olds. Play equipment including slides, swings, climbers, dual height drinking fountains, benches, trash receptacles, signage, shade structure, lighting, spray apparatuses, and seating for parents. We're certainly looking forward to what the design firms come up with. As you know, there's been several playgrounds throughout the park system that have been recently revamped, and they all are very creative in nature, and we certainly look forward to what these firms come up with.
Okay, Freeholder Seabolt.
I had a question on, I had a question before we left number 15, and then I can also comment about 16, 17, and 18. Can I go back to 15, or do I have to wait on that?
Freeholder Seabolt, we're on all of them. You can make your comments however you please.
Oh, okay. On 15, Kate Hartwick, I have the same question for 15. Are these, I have the list of all 10 that applied for support. Were these ones who applied, or did you reach out to them?
Yes, so through you, Madam President, all of the organizations applied to us. We do the same outreach that we use for our local arts program. They're done simultaneously through the local libraries, as well as using county locations to do workshops to guide people through the application process.
So if I don't see some listed here, and they were listed in the past, that means they didn't apply again?
Correct.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to be sure of. Thank you. And about the ones dealing with parks, recreation, and cultural affairs, the resolutions which you received included the minutes from the March 28th Open Space Trust Fund Advisory Meeting, and all items are listed, and Josh Sykes went over much of what was included, but for each item, it's what is listed is exactly what is going to be done. So it's all there for your information, and we discussed it in full at our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Freeholders. Mr. McInerney?
So, basically, if I'm right, 14 is the funding source, 15 is the expenditure of that funding source, 16 relates to 19, 17 relates to 20, and 18 to 21. So 14, 16, 17, 18 the funding source, and 15, 19, 20, and 21 are the expenditures.
Is that correct?
Through you, Madam President, yes it is.
Thank you. Mr. Paul Vecchio?
No question.
Freeholders. Okay. Kate, Josh, is there anything else that needs to be said regarding resolutions 14 through 21? Okay, thank you. Please list the resolutions 14 through 21 for action later this evening. Madam Clerk, please read 22 and 23.
22, Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs resolution authorizing submission of historic preservation grant application to the New Jersey Historic Trust. Resolution 23, Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs special services to provide the production of entertainment services for 2017, LaGuardia and Associates, $169,900.
Okay, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, Mr. Zates is again here to answer your questions.
Joshua Zates, Essex County Parks. Number 22 is authorization from this board to apply for a grant in order to do some improvements over at the Parks Administration Building. The maximum grant amount we're allowed to apply for is $500,000, so that is certainly the plan. As you're probably aware, the building celebrated its 100th birthday in 2016. In 1977, it was listed on the National Historic Registry. And as someone who works in the building, I can certainly attest that the building could certainly use some improvements, and we're hoping to get these funds to make those improvements. We're still in the design phase as to exactly what we're going to apply for, but certainly there's many, many things that we can envision doing.
Okay. Mr. McInerney?
No questions, Madam President.
Mr. Palavecchio?
Yes, and this simply authorizes the submission for the grant application, so there's no expenditures here.
Okay. Freeholders? All right. 23?
Kate Hartwig, Essex County Parks. Item number 23 is the award of a professional services agreement to LaGuardia and Associates to support entertainment services, which includes our summer concert series, as well as other entertainment services throughout the rest of the calendar year. And John Alati from LaGuardia and Associates is here tonight representing the firm.
Thank you. Please come forward. State your name and affiliation for the record and tell us a bit about the contract.
John Alati, partner, LaGuardia and Associates Entertainment. Madam President, members of the board, we are in our 22nd year in providing entertainment services to municipalities and counties. This past summer, 2016, we provided entertainment to 57 municipalities and 4 counties for over 250 concerts. Fortunately, for the past 21 years, we have been doing that same service for Essex County, and this is a very comprehensive concert series that kicks off with the House Music Festival in Weequahic Park on June 24th and goes right through to the 9/11 ceremony at Eagle Rock Reservation. Almost all the parks are represented, Brookdale Park and all the various parks throughout the county.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Palavecchio?
No comments.
Freeholders? Freeholder Seabolt?
Thank you. I'd like to thank John Alati and LaGuardia Associates for doing such an excellent job providing the entertainment services each summer in all our parks. You really do a great job, and I'm glad we're continuing to use you.
Thank you. Thank you, Freeholder.
Let me just say something, Madam President.
Freeholder Jones?
Well, I agree with what you said, but I'm going to ask Mr. Alati. Have you given Irvington a choice of who they select to participate? Because, you know, we had that issue last year.
This year, it's my understanding that in this contract does not include Irvington because the county is doing a Irvington Day in May. So that's a separate item. It wasn't included in this contract.
Okay. All right, I just needed to know.
Thank you, Freeholder.
Mr. McInerney?
I don't have any questions.
Freeholders? All right, hearing none, thank you. Please list
Thank you.
for action later this evening. Madam Clerk, please read resolution number 24.
Resolution 24, Department of Public Works, Division of Engineering, resolution consenting to the Township of Irvington, Resolution DP-17-0215-4, relocating an existing near side bus stop at Corridor Street, Chancellor Avenue to a mid-block bus stop between Corridor Street and Woolsey Street along Chancellor Avenue.
Okay. Mr. Jackson?
Yes, as Madam Clerk indicated, this is simply a bus stop relocation with no cost to the county. New Jersey Transit is going to bear all the cost.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Mr. Palavecchio? Freeholders? Okay, hearing none. Please list it for action later this evening. Please move to resolutions number 25 through 27.
Resolution 25, Department of Administration and Finance, Office of Purchasing, approval of qualified list of vendors as a one-year period from date of award to provide for forensic auditing services if required on an as-needed basis to the County of Essex. Resolution 26, Department of Administration and Finance, Office of Purchasing, contract award to Essex Travel Service to provide travel and conference services for Essex County, 2-year agreement, date of award, amount not to exceed $95,000. Resolution 27, Department of Administration and Finance, Office of Purchasing, authorization to conduct an online auction to sell 5 decommissioned county-owned vehicles. Resolution 28, Department of Citizen Services and Department of Economic Development, Training and Employment, authorization to use the competitive contract process for various services.
Okay, Mr. Jackson?
25. Yes, this is the county has found out, the administration has found out through some of its projects that it's working on to audit telephone bills, utility bills, and even our medical bills, that it would be more prudent to identify a list of companies that can do that for us on an ongoing basis. So we've identified some firms, and this would allow us to use this group of firms to do that work. And if any of the work by any vendor gets above $17,500 threshold, we have to come back to the board for approval of that particular entity.
Thank you. Mr. McInerney?
This is just a blanket approval for these, an RFQ.
Through you, Madam President, that's correct.
Right, and we do similar things for our bond counsel as well.
Thank you. Mr. Palavecchio? Freeholders? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Jackson?
Yes, item 26 is an agreement for travel, to provide travel services, and most of this is for the Sheriff's Office and the Essex County Prosecutor's Office for extraditions in the amount of $95,000, and it's a 2-year contract.
Okay. Mr. McInerney?
I don't have any questions on this.
Mr. Palavecchio?
No questions on this.
Freeholders? Okay. Mr. Jackson?
Yes, 27 is from the Office of Purchasing. It's authorization to conduct an online auction for 5 vehicles, a 2005 Blazer, 2000 Frontier, 2002 Chevy truck, 1999 Dodge van, and a 2004 Dodge Durango. And we're going to online auction these, and if any are not bid on, we will just for scrap.
Mr. McInerney?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Palavecchio?
No questions.
Freeholders? Please list resolutions 25 through 27 for action later this evening. Please move to resolution 28 and read.
Madam President, if you would, can I go back to 25 for one second? The only concern, and I'm going to ask a question, and if you can answer it at another point in time, but on a forensic audit, which would typically be something where there is something suspect and further review other than our normal auditors would be required. In a situation like that, could you later inform the board as to if this blanket approval is required up to 17.5, how would the board become aware then that there might be some sort of investigation like that underway, or some sort of audit for some potential fraud or irregularities? So I'm not asking for an answer. I'm just saying, since we're giving you that blanket authority to hire a forensic accountant, just some mechanism, or at least the leadership of the board would be notified that there is something of a serious nature that would require a forensic audit for you to attend.
Julius Coultry, Deputy Administrator. When we went out for this blanket audit, we're constant in discussions with Verizon and other entities. They say we owe them X, we say we owe you Y, And at certain times, we get to the point where, what is correct? And that's the reason we went out for the audit. I think if we go over 17.5, I know when we go back out to 17.5, we have to come back for the board to say, we believe that we need this investigated by a private entity, and that's why we would come back.
Okay, but I think you said something very important. These specific forensic auditors are really based on contractual dispute rather than any fraud or irregularities.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Good.
Freeholders? Mr. Paul Vecchio?
No questions.
Please list resolutions 25 through 27. Madam Clerk, please read 28.
I believe I did.
And Mr. Jackson, on resolution 28?
Yes, Madam President. Item 28, there was a resolution passed in 2012 which provided for authorization to use competitive contracting processes for particularly Department of Citizen Services, but for a number of boards as well, as required by state statute. We are amending that resolution, requesting to amend that resolution to do basically two things. As you know, we changed the name of the Welfare Division from Welfare to Division of Family and Assisted Benefits, and also we're adding consulting as one of the entities, one of the groups one of the functions that this contracting process could be used for. So that's the basis of this amendment to that resolution, or update, I should say.
Thank you. Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Mr. Paul Vecchio?
No questions.
Freeholders? Any questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, please list it for action later this evening. Madam Clerk, please read resolutions 29 through 59 into the record at a later time. I would like to be added to commendations 35 through 41 and 54 through 59. Freeholders, any questions or comments?
Yes, I'd like to be added on some of these accommodations. Here it is, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41.
Okay. And Freeholder Johnson, would you like to be added onto 54 through 59 as well?
Through 59, yes.
Freeholders? The same thing for levy. The same for Freeholder Richardson.
Just do acclamation.
Okay?
Acclamation.
Acclamation? All right.
But,
Acclamation, Freeholders?
for all of them?
For resolutions 35 through 41 and 54 through 59. Okay, by acclamation. Are there any other questions or comments? Freeholder Siebold?
Did you change my vote from before?
No. Yes, Freeholder Siebold, we changed your vote. We're very
Okay,
clear that
thank
you
you.
voted not to adjourn this meeting.
Okay, I just wanted
Mr.
to-
County Executive Joe DiVincenzo, when you're reading this transcript, Freeholder Siebold voted not to
No,
adjourn.
I knew that we didn't have a motion to vote on it, but I didn't want to interrupt the meeting and say anything. And then I didn't realize that that's what you were going back and doing, and that's why I didn't follow the vote. So I apologize, as long as you have my vote correct.
Yes, we do have
Thank
your
you.
vote correct.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, Freeholder Siebold.
He's teasing me, that's why I can't tell.
And for the record, on the transcripts, that is sarcasm. Okay. So, are there any other questions or comments regarding any of these resolutions? Is there any resolution that needs to be extracted from a collective vote, voting on resolution 3 through 6, and then 8 through 59? As 7 was withdrawn by the administration. Freeholder, Vice President Gill.
8 through 59. Number 20. Recording, I'm not sure council had, I guess my question to you is, council, I want to vote no on number 20, so what do we need to do that?
Okay. So that means that I'm gonna just extract that from the vote.
Okay.
Yep. Freeholders? Okay. So let's vote on resolution number 20 first. Madam, is there a mover and a second to take resolution number 20?
I'll move it.
Is there a mover and a second?
20. Move it.
Moved by Freeholder Richardson. Is that a second, Freeholder Seabold?
Yes.
Okay, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Toro.
Yes.
Freeholder Seabold.
Yes.
Freeholder Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Gill.
No.
Freeholder Bobadilla.
Yes.
Freeholder President Timberlake.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Freeholders, regarding resolutions 3 through 6, 8 through 19, and then 21 through 59. Is there any that needs to be extracted from a collective vote? Hearing none, do I have a mover and a second to take those resolutions together? Was that moved by Freeholder Bobadilla?
Second.
Second by Freeholder Johnson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Bobadilla. Freeholder Vice President Gill.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Seabold.
Yes.
Freeholder Toro.
Yes.
Freeholder President Timberlake.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Are there any report of board committees? Any legislative reports? Any written communication? Any unfinished business? Any new business to discuss? Moving to public comment session. If there's any member of the public wishing to comment on any issue at all, please come forward. State your name and affiliation for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening again, freeholders and Madam President. I'm R.A. Cowboy, 48th District Leader of North South Ward. And I just wanted to say, for all the things that I have spoke on and have asked to be looked after, I am very disappointed in the way things are happening. I don't know if it's me or if it's who I'm supposed to be following. Being a district leader seems like I'm being distant out of the situation for what I'm trying to do for the people down there in the South Ward. Even being put out after I was elected and wanted to be in the South Ward, and every leader from the mayor all the way down to the council, to the councilman, to the district leader, everybody saying that they can get me in a place. And I'm not a beggar, but I do want to be responded back to that we can't help you or we're not going to help you. And that's the reason why I came up here to speak and see what I could do for the county and the people. And I'm very active, and I haven't looked for any monies or anything. But when the people that you have directed me to make these changes for me, I contact them, and they never get back. And I never can call them or get an answer for what they can do or what they haven't done or anything. And I just not a beggar. I don't get on the phone and begging for something. If you do it, I appreciate it. If you can help me, I appreciate it. Now I'm thinking I'm going to leaders that are in a position to make a change or to help a senior in the senior citizen buildings and stuff. And I see what the seniors is going through over there in my ward, and I understand why things aren't done, because I used to be in the system. And I used to deal with the mounted squad. I was always turned down because I wasn't following protocol on the way that things were handled with horses and things like that. But I mean, all I'm getting now, every kid, every people is looking for me to do something with the horses programs of the South Ward. And I don't even have a place to contact, to be contacted at. But I just kind of feel I'm being choked, and maybe that's why I'm coughing so much. But I would like to have some kind of results in what's going on. Thank you.
Mr. Cowboy, I just need some clarification. I don't fully understand 100% what you were talking about. Are you saying in need to your own personal situation?
Yes, I mean, I have been...
So I know that Mr. Fisher had contacted you?
Yeah, I talked to Mr. Fisher.
Is that what you're talking about, that situation?
Yeah, that's one of the situations. I was pushed on to somebody else, and then I can't leave. Lee Fisher, I can't never get a hold of him. His phone, he don't answer. And anybody has a cell phone and don't answer, I mean, something is wrong. And I've been calling all the time, and I don't get no answer. And his thing is full.
Madam Clerk?
Madam President, may I speak?
Yes.
Lee Fisher is very responsive, so maybe you've been missing his return calls. I've worked with him and have high respect for him as I have respect for you. Contact me tomorrow. I also know that he was made available at a meeting several meetings ago because Administrator Jackson spoke to me and said, make sure that I have you speak to Lee Fisher. And then I also, as a follow-up, I believe your brother Ralph reached out to me, and I also gave your brother the contact numbers. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Mr. Fisher was here, present?
Yes, I mean, this is what I'm saying. He said he was going to get back to me.
And your brother also followed up on your behalf, right?
Right, and he followed up, and then when they get to the person he was turning me to, they never called me back or find out any information.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cowboy. So please give Deborah Davis Ford a call tomorrow to make sure that she reconnects you to Mr. Fisher.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other members of the public wishing to comment on any issue at all? Mr. Wadu, good evening. Please come forward.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Ed Wadu, citizen. One of the things I came in this meeting tonight and saw eminent domain. Talked over about an hour or so. We have a piece of property that the county owns in Weequahic Park that's been dormant for 30 years. People are living in it, broke into it, and started to vandalize them. The property. If it wasn't for the workers, the county sheriff, and the local residents, we don't know what would have happened to the building over the 30 years. It sits right next to the tennis court. But it's been vacant for 30 years. We've asked the administration over and over, what are they going to do about it? And they say it costs too much money. But for a piece of property that was built, in that time it was built, in a historical spot, to let just deteriorate from lack of maintenance is ridiculous. I wish through you, Madam President, is that some kind of way, since it's county property, how can we use eminent domain, if possible, to get a historical site replenished? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wadu. We'll respond to you within 7 days in writing. Are there any other members of the public wishing to comment? Freeholder Richardson?
Yeah, through you, Madam President. I know the building that Mr. Wadu was talking about. I had a conversation, I think about a year or so ago, with the administration about that particular building. And so I'm definitely willing to revisit that. We need to have a conversation.
Okay, freeholders, all right. Closing public comment session and moving to freeholder comment session. Are there any comments? All right, motion to adjourn?
Move it.